Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be showing you how to use different lights in Maya. I'll be showing you how to use the mesh light to emit light from an object, how to use the point light, spotlight, area light, directional light, and also the Skydome light to use HDRI files. I'll also be showing you how to add a nice glow, which also known as a bloom effect, and also how to add some fog to create some atmospheric volume so you can have a nice light rays effect. And finally, how to add blur depth of field to the camera render view to have a realistic looking render. And without further ado, let's get right into the video. So I'll be using one of my students' houses as an example for lighting. So first, make sure you're on the modeling standard workspace, and of course reset current workspace so we're all on the same workspace. So let's create a quick base. So let's click on the circle, press R to scale the circle up, just so we have some floors. Okay. And now if we try to render, if we turn on the lights, it's all black. It's because we don't have any lights. Okay. So I'm gonna click Arnold and render. And I'm gonna click and drag the window and dark it up here so we can see. And of course it's black right now because we haven't added any lights. So to add lights, what we're gonna do is go to the rendering tab right here. And we have all of our different lights. We also have lights in the Arnold tab right here, which we have the Skydome light and the other lights that Arnold uses. So first we'll cover these default lights. So we're not going to talk about ambient light because nobody uses them. Directional light. Click on directional light right here. And right off the bat, we get a directional light. If we go to the attribute editor, we will see our directional light settings. So first thing we need to do is I'm just gonna move it up here so we can see it better. And it doesn't matter where you have your directional light, is gonna all be from the same direction. So right here our directional light is lighting up this way. So if I click E to rotate it, I can move it around and rotate it like this to have like a sun effect. To increase the exposure, scroll down until you find this Arnold setting, and you can just increase the exposure from here. Okay, that gives us the effect we're looking for, and we can rotate the light to replicate the sun. So I'm gonna replicate it like this. Okay. And as you can see, we have like a sun effect. Okay. What else? So we can use a color temperature to either warm the lights up or cool them down. Okay. Or what you can do is also select a color from here. Okay. Next we have the angle, which notice how sharp our shadows are. We can increase the angle to fade them up more. Alright, and these are all the settings you need to worry about. The angle, the exposure, the color temperature, and the color. And you can also adjust the shadow color, but that is not very realistic to do. Okay, black is the one to choose. And finally, you can rotate it in any direction you like. And you can also disable the shadows as well. So cast shadows, you can turn it off if you don't want any shadows, but that will give you an unrealistic results. So I'm gonna click on my attribute editor and we can see the directional light is here. So I'm gonna click on it and delete it to move on to the next light. The next light I'm going to cover is the point light. It's right here, point light, and you can see the name in the bottom left corner. So let's click on it, and then I'm gonna move it like here, and we can see things in the viewport, but in the render view we can't see anything. Why? Because we need to scroll down to Arnold, make sure it's the point light shape in the attribute editor, and you can also click on your point light if you don't see this window in the outliner. Let's click off the outliner. So first we have the exposure. We can increase the exposure, increase the radius. The radius right now is 0, and disable normalize. Okay, and now we can see it in the render view. So we can change the exposure like maybe 10, and you'll see how that changed. Okay, and we can even reduce it down. So the radius is how big the point light is. So you can make it really small or really big. And to better visualize the radius, we can make it visible in the camera. So right now the camera is 0. We can turn it all the way up to be able to see it in the render view. So now if I adjust the radius, you can see we can see the lights. And again, exposure to mess up with the exposure. So what if we want to create like a glow effect to it? Okay, so to add a glow effect is very easy. You go to the render settings right here, click on the render settings, and then click on the Arnold renderer tab right here. Then as the last one, in imagers, click on it, and let's add an imager. So I'm not going to cover these for now. I'm going to cover them in a later tutorial. Right now I want to keep this beginner friendly. So let's click on add imager, and let's choose lens effect. Okay, and in the attribute editor the settings will show up. So to add a glow effect, we're gonna adjust the bloom. It's called bloom in Maya. I think it's called the same thing in Blender. So right now we don't have any glow effect. Why? Because the strength is 0. We need to increase it. So once I increase it, you can see we have a nice glow effect. We can increase the radius to get a softer glow. And maybe it's too much. Maybe I'll do 0.0, 0.02. Okay, now we get softer glow. We can go to the attribute editor and click on our point light again to show it up in the attribute editor. And we can also, of course, change it to any color we like. Red, blue. We can maybe reduce it down and increase the exposure to give us a cool effect. Alright, let's move on to the next light. Come down and select my point light and delete it. The next light I'm going to cover is the spotlight. So let's click on the spotlight. Let's move it here, move it up, and let's scale it up, but the scale doesn't matter in here for the spotlight. So a spotlight is basically self-explanatory. It's a spotlight. It's like a cone that projects light into the ground. So we can see something in the viewport, but we can't see anything in the render view. Why? Because we need to go to Arnold right here. Check off normalize, increase the exposure, and increase the radius. Let's maybe increase the exposure to 10, and we're starting to see something. Okay, so let's click on our spotlight in the viewport, and if we click E, we can also rotate it to give us the angle we're looking for. So we can point it to our house like this and see how it created a nice spotlight effect for us. You can maybe move it up, rotate it down like this, and we can also mess with the roundness. So right now, as you can see, it's very round. We can lower the roundness to make it more like a square rectangular shape. I like the roundness. I'm gonna keep it on, and again radius to change it. And right now the outlines are very sharp. How do we fix this? We can go to this angle right here and adjust the angle to give us a more softer shadows, or the other way around. We can also adjust the cone angle, so make it smaller or make it bigger. And we can also adjust the drop off. So to better visualize the cone, so see right here is coming from here. So a cool trick that I will show you is, let me first make it smaller. So I'll show you this real quick. So go to the render settings again, and we're going to add some fog. So go to Arnold render, scroll down till you see environment. So make sure you're on the Arnold renderer tab, click on environment, and we're going to add some atmospheric volume. So just click on this checker box right here and click create AI atmosphere volume, and nothing happens. Why? Because the density is 0. So if you increase it a little bit, we can start to see the light effect. It created like some God rays. So I think it's a bit too much. Let me try to lower it down to maybe 0.05. Three. Okay, that looks good. Actually, I will do like 0.05. And we can click on the attribute editor and go back to our spotlights. And we can also change it to any color that we like. Maybe I can do like a blue color, or like a yellow color. Very cool. If you don't see it, just click on your spotlight and you will see the settings again. And we can create like a laser kind of effect too. We can bump up the exposure to create like a sci-fi looking laser. Okay, so that's the spotlight. And you can stack different lights together. I'm just gonna delete it so it's to better demonstrate. So the next light is area light. So it's rectangle right here. Let's click on it. Let's move it to the side and make it bigger. Let's move it up. So nothing's showing up. Why? Because again, we need to scroll down to Arnold right here. Arnold. Disable normalize. So we start to see it more. And we can increase exposure. And an area light is basically a rectangle that casts straight line shadows. So we can rotate it like this, and we have some cool effect. So right now we can see it because of the fog. We can disable the fog if we don't want to see it, and if we want to see it more, we can go to visibility and increase the visibility. So now we can see it more if you want that sort of effect. So it creates some nice lights. We can maybe increase the exposure, and we can also use color temperature. So if I want it like to be warmer or cooler, and we can turn off cast shadows if we don't want any shadows. And if your shadow quality is low, you can increase the resolution. And we can play around with these settings. I lowered the spread, so we have like this window kind of effects. I can increase the spread to have like a wider range. Soft shadow. You have so many different effects you can play around with, and you can maybe press R to scale it up. Okay, maybe let's use it as a silhouette light. So let's do this and rotate it. Move it back. So we have some nice silhouette now for our house. We can even press R to scale it up more and lower the exposure. Okay, and maybe lower the camera. And of course, if you don't have the fog, you won't be able to see some light in here. Okay, so that's basically the area lights. The next light I'm going to cover, so we cover directional light, point light, spotlight, and area light. Ambient light and volume light nobody really uses, they're kind of useless, and we can experiment with them if you like, but I'm not going to cover them in this video. Let's go to Arnold right now, and I'm going to delete my area light. So outliner, and let's delete my area light. So the next light I'm going to cover is the Skydome light, which is where you plug in HDRI files. So right now it's all white, and to plug in an HDRI you can click on this checker box right here, click file, click on your folder icon right here, and navigate to your HDRI file. And what you can do is also click on your HDRI file and click and drag it into the folder's bookmark, so you can access it easier. Click on it, and I've downloaded a bunch of HDRI files from polygonhaven.com. I think I'm going to use the sunset one. Click open. And we can click go up a level. Click here to go up. We can increase the intensity. Press E. So click on your Skydome light first, then you should get the controls. We can press E to rotate it around. Now we have our sun in the background. So we have this fade in. Why? Because we have the bloom effect. So again, if you go to the render settings and click on your lens effect right here, you should have back the bloom settings, and you can play around with them. If you don't want the sun in here, you can increase the threshold or lower the strength, so now you don't have the bloom effect anymore. If you want more bloom, you can go to the threshold and select, and it will select more bright things in your scene. Alright, let's go back to our Skydome. And what other settings do we have? We have the shadow color if you want to change the shadow color. We have cast shadows if you don't want your shadows. We have exposure if you want to increase your exposure. And if you don't want it to be available in the render view, you can go to visibility and lower the camera visibility. And now we won't be able to see it in the render settings anymore. And if you don't want to see it in the viewport, what you can go is scroll down to viewport, click on viewport, and the sky radius, change the sky radius to 0. This will disable it in the viewport. Okay. I'm going to delete my Skydome lights. So again, here we have an area light, just like we do in here. Either lights work, but this one, if you click on this area light right here, it's actually a bit easier to use. So you get your exposure in here. And again, check off normalize. Let's move the light, click W and move it around and scale it up. Okay, and you can press E to rotate it. Basically the same things as in the other area lights. I'm going to delete it. The last light I want to cover is actually there's one more, physical sky. So a physical sky is basically the same thing as a Skydome light. So once I clicked a physical sky, it automatically created a Skydome for me. So let's go closer. So if I click on my Skydome light in the outliner, I can increase the intensity. Alright, and what else we can do is see color. It already has something for us. So let's click on here. And we can change more settings here. You can increase the intensity, mess around with the sky tint. This setting right here will rotate the light for you. See how the light is rotating? And you can enable the sky, disable the sky or disable the sun. Feel free to play around with these settings. Okay, now the last light I'm going to cover is the mesh light. Where is it? It's here, right here, mesh light. So once I click on a mesh light, it says no transform is selected. So a mesh light, we need to select an object first and then click mesh light. Alright, and you can do the same thing here, Arnold and Arnold lights, and you will see the Arnold lights right here. You have mesh light too. So let's select an object first. So I'm going to turn off the lights in the viewport so we can see. And I'm gonna stop rendering too. So let's see, I want to emit lights from this object right here. Okay, so once I click my object, you'll see we have so many different tabs. We don't need all of these. After you've decided on your final look, you can click on your object, make sure in object mode and click on your object, go to poly modeling, and let's delete the history because we don't need it anymore, and it's actually going to make your computer faster, because look at all of these modifiers and deformers used in here. We don't really need them anymore, so I'm going to click on delete history by type. So click delete history, and I'm also gonna click freeze transformation. And one last thing is, see the pivot point is not centered, so we can click on center pivot right here to center the pivot point, and now we can now our pivot point is centered. So next, now we can create a mesh light. So let's go to Arnold light and make sure your object is selected, the object you want to emit light from. And I'm going to start rendering so we can see the effects. Now we can click on mesh light or go to Arnold lights and click mesh light. If you forget the names, click on it, and as you can see, it created some lights for us. We can again click off normalize and increase the exposure to give us the exposure. So we can either show the original mesh, okay, or what we can do is make the light visible. So I'm going to turn off show original mesh, and I'm going to make the light visible. And now we have our light. I can increase the exposure to maybe 10. And it's obviously too much. I'm gonna reduce it down. And you can turn off cast shadows if you like, but I'm gonna keep it on. You can adjust the color temperature, maybe make it warmer. And if the light is too much, I'm gonna turn off the light for a second, make it invisible. And Let's see. So samples is the quality of your light, how many samples you would like. The higher the number, the more time it will take to render. You can increase the exposure. And if I enable make the light visible, obviously it will be way too much. So what I'm gonna do is show the original mesh. Okay, so we have the original mesh right here. We can also go to select the object, right click, and create a new material, standard surface material, and we can just scroll down to emission and bump up the emission value, and we can choose like a color. Maybe bump up the emission to 5. So you could either do it this way, or actually I prefer the other method. So we can see our light in the outliner, so it will be hiding here underneath default lights. So I'm going to make light visible and hide original mesh. And we can play around with these settings till you find the perfect setting that works for you. Okay, so one more thing I want to show you is how to add blur, how to add depth of field in the camera. So what you're gonna do is, so right now if you click on panels, go to perspective, we're using the perspective camera. So if we go up, you can see the perspective camera right here. To create a new camera is very simple. Just click panels, go to perspective and click new. And in the outliner, it will create perspective 1 for us, which is the new camera. We can double click on it and name it to camera 1. Now if we click on the panels, we can go to perspective and click on the camera 1. And also in the Arnold renderer, we can click on render and choose the camera we would like. So right now it's not updated. So to update the render view, just click render and update full scene. We can stop it, go to render, camera, and now camera shape 1 shows up. Click on it, click render, and you will see the camera angle changes. We can click on this button right here to show the frame. So you can either have this red line to show where you're being rendered. So I'm going to show you how to create depth of blur. So my angle for this is going to be here. Okay, so let's click on our camera 1. And we have different settings here. You don't need to worry about all of these. Scroll down to Arnold, click on Arnold, make sure you're on the camera shape 1, click on Arnold. So there are different settings in here. You can change the exposure of the camera, which actually affects the whole image. We can change the focal distance. So since nothing is happening, why? Because we need to enable depth of blur. So click on it, and then if we increase the if we increase the aperture size, okay, the whole image is going to be blurry. So the value we need to change is the focal distance. So you can mess around with the focal distance till you find the right focal distance that suits your scene. So as you can see, we created like a depth of blur effect. And you can I'm just going to increase the aperture size just so we can know which area is being focused. And you can adjust the focal distance till the parts you would like is in focus. Okay, and then you can lower the aperture size. So now we have a nice blur effect. If you're having difficulty knowing the exact focus distance, what you can do is go to display and then heads up display and then click on object details. Okay, now we have our object details. So if we click on the area on the object we would like to make sure is in focus, I'm going to click on the light, for example. It will show the distance from the light is 5.9. If we go back, this number will increase. If we go closer, the number will of course get lower. So 5.56. So 5.56, we can click on our camera 1 and click 5.56 and the focus distance. This will ensure we have accurate distance. So now you can see it's very in focus. Okay. And if you want your image to be higher resolution, what you can do is click on your render settings, click on common, scroll down, and in image size you can choose a different size. So we have all of these different sizes. I'm going to do HD 1080. You can also put your numbers in here, what kind of size you would like, and as you can see, it made our image bigger and sharper. Of course, this is gonna take longer to render because it's a higher quality size. I think that's it for now. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.